Good morning. I am pretty excited to now be walking you through to the next section of this first course. And that's because in the first half of this course we've been defining creativity. We've been, in some ways, observing creativity from afar a little bit, perhaps in kind of third person, as we observed and began to think about how we can define the creative spirit. It's like creativity as our superpower. Observing also some of the things which perhaps can suppress and affect our creativity. So I hope that in all of the various areas which we covered in the last section, you've really kind of begun to get more of a feel of creativity, I suppose, as a kind of thing, as a thing which you can nurture and observe, harness, embrace, something that kind of becomes perhaps a little bit more tangible in your mind. And that's going to be a little bit in contrast to what we now kind of dive into. And in this next 5 days, and hopefully as you take this thinking kind of on with you through the weekend and whatever, whereas before we've been defining creativity, this week we're actually going to think about embracing, actually bringing it kind of closer into ourselves, almost as a sort of beginning of re-embodiment. And this is going to be a slightly bumpy ride, perhaps, depending on your way of looking at things. But we're going to think about various ways of embracing creativity in both the kind of fun, warm, and I suppose, well, very compassionate way. But in doing that, we're also going to touch on some potentially quite painful subjects. And it's important for us to do that and to sort of ride through those spaces, as in many ways we can really utilize our creativity to some incredible effect when confronted with what can be or what can be interpreted as more negative experiences of our lives. So I want you to stick with me on this. It's going to be a ride. I hope you find it fascinating and incredibly rewarding and incredibly enlightening. Well, I'm excited because I know precisely and I have a feel for where this can go. So first up, today, little intro aside, I want us to start thinking about embracing the unknowns and how we, as natural born, creative explorers, can observe the unknowns and embrace the unknowns also as a point of incredible excitement, as a point of perhaps incredible opportunity, and which really differentiates the creative mindset, really defines the creative mindset sort of against the way that most of the world seems to think. So, just a bit of sort of 101, I guess. And I apologise if any of this is just completely obvious, but I just want to cover it and just sort of reacquaint us with some of these things. But as creatives, we are at the coalface of inventing and innovating, creating new things, whether it's just in our minds, whether it's visions, whether it's envisioning possibilities and concepts, or whether it's envisaging tangible things and actually making things and bringing things into the world which had previously been unimagined. And unlike most other areas of existence and areas of certainly human existence, we, as the creatives, also have that kind of free spirit, that license to explore areas that sometimes other people and other practices just don't have the opportunity to do, or just don't really have the... It's not a license, it's more of a sort of permission. But we do. And in fact, that's one of our superpowers. So, embracing our ability to go into the spaces of the unknowns as kind of intrepid explorers, perhaps even the kind of risk takers, the brave, and sometimes perhaps even the bit reckless types, the renegades. We have to sort of sometimes be brave and remind ourselves that this is kind of us. This is our kind of safe space. And even if we're just imagining, we know that exploring the unimagined that's our thing. That's how we kind of move forward. And if we, in contrast, just did the same thing and walked the same path every day, we would essentially not be creating, we would just be doing. So this can be quite fearful, this can provoke quite fearful thoughts when we go and really think about this. But if that is happening, I want us to kind of find ways to overcome that fear so that we can explore kind of with our eyes closed. And I suppose the number one thing which comes to mind, which prevents anyone from exploring, is fear. It's the fear of the unknown. It's the fear of kind of not knowing what's going to happen, what's going to be found, what riddles and darkness maybe kind of under that next stone. But that's for us to explore, and it's up to us to decide which stones we kind of overturn, which avenues we go down. But it's always important to recognise that those avenues are for us to choose, and we can, with the right mindset, go into that level of deep, intrepid exploration, almost sort of without a helmet on, without a life jacket, or one of those sort of metaphors. And I want to just sort of circle back to something we may have touched on. Well, I know we did touch on, but I'm not sure we would have just joined the dots to this. But whereas kind of being in our comfort zones, as we explored in the last section, can be very detrimental, there's a difference between stagnation and comfort. And if we are engineering comforts which enable us to explore, if we're establishing comforts and tools and utilities which are giving us that sort of springboard to go wherever we want, then that's a good comfort. That's your boilerplate, that's the ground zero, that's the sort of stuff which moves us forward. These are the sort of tangibles. So knowing and having a greater understanding and a kind of greater feel for those different genres of comfort can also be the thing which helps us to sort of be brave, to find the courage to go exploring in areas where we've never been. So I don't want to sort of overdo this point, and I think I'll leave it there, because this is going to be a big week. We're going to explore some extremely interesting facets of our ways of embracing. And so just take the time to think about, hello, where have you come from, Mr. Explorer? Just take the time to think about unknowns, perhaps even just recognise in your day or throughout this week what it is that you knew and what it was that you were willing to be surprised about, or what you were willing to unknow. And think about how that can affect your practice and your decision making. And also just think about where you sit with that and getting some sort of comfort with being a radical explorer that I know you are. Alright, have a great day, and I'll be back soon with more. Take care.